We're told to care about having the perfect job, the perfect body, the perfect relationship. We're pressured to care about the latest trends, the most expensive gadgets, the most Instagrammable experiences. We're constantly nudged to compare ourselves to others, to strive for some unattainable ideal of perfection, and to give a fuck about all of it, all the time. But here's the truth. Giving too many fucks is detrimental to your mental health. It leads to anxiety, stress, and a perpetual feeling of inadequacy. It causes us to become overly attached to the superficial, to chase mirages of happiness and satisfaction that never quite materialize. The more you give a fuck about everything, the more you'll feel like you're entitled to comfort and happiness at all times. This is a trap that keeps you from moving forward. What happens when you're focused on all the things you think you should be doing, all the ways you think you should be? You get caught in what I like to call the feedback loop from hell. You feel bad about feeling bad. You feel guilty for feeling guilty. You get anxious about feeling anxious. You're constantly judging yourself, comparing yourself, and ultimately beating yourself up. It's a never-ending cycle of negativity, and it keeps you spinning in place. Let me tell you about a guy named Charles Bukowski. He was an alcoholic, a womanizer, a gambler, and by most accounts, a pretty big mess. For years, his writing was rejected, called crude, disgusting, and depraved. He worked a dead-end job at a post office and spent most of his money on booze and gambling. By all accounts, he was a loser. And yet, Bukowski became a successful novelist and poet, selling over 2 million books. His success didn't come from some relentless pursuit of greatness or a desperate attempt to be someone he wasn't. It came from his ability to be honest with himself, especially the worst parts of himself, and to share his failings without hesitation or doubt. He didn't try to be anything other than what he was. He didn't give a fuck about success. Even after he became famous, he didn't change. And that, my friends, is where his power lay. Bukowski's story embodies the idea that sometimes the greatest achievements come when we stop trying so hard, when we let go of the need for external validation, and when we simply accept ourselves for who we are. His tombstone reads, "Don't try." This isn't about giving up. It's about recognizing that the relentless pursuit of some external ideal is often the very thing that prevents us from finding true meaning and satisfaction. So how do we break free from the cycle of giving too many fucks? How do we choose what matters? How do we live a life that is authentic, meaningful, and fulfilling? First, we need to recognize that happiness is not a destination. It's a problem. Happiness comes from solving problems. We are biologically wired to be dissatisfied, to strive for more. This dissatisfaction is not a bug. It's a feature. It's what drives us to grow, to innovate, and to survive. If you want to be happy, you have to embrace the struggle. You have to choose what you are willing to suffer for. Most people want to be rich, but they don't want to suffer through 60-hour work weeks or navigate corporate hierarchies. They want great relationships, but they don't want to deal with awkward conversations, hurt feelings, or emotional baggage. They want to be in great physical shape, but don't want the struggle and pain of being in the gym for hours. What you are willing to struggle for is what defines who you are. You have to be in love with the process, not just the outcome. Who you are is defined by what you're willing to struggle for. The joy is in the climb itself. The path to happiness is full of struggles and shame. We often get caught up in the idea of being special or extraordinary. We're told that we each deserve greatness, that we are all destined to do something truly amazing. But here's the thing. If everyone is extraordinary, then by definition, no one is. This relentless pursuit of exceptionalism can lead to feelings of inadequacy, self-doubt, and even entitlement. Entitlement is the belief that you deserve good things without having to earn them. Entitled people believe they should be rich without working for it, liked without helping anyone, or have an amazing lifestyle without sacrifice. They spend so much time trying to convince themselves and others of how great they are that they don't actually do anything. A person with high self-worth can recognize their flaws and act to improve them. Instead of striving for some arbitrary standard of exceptionalism, we need to embrace the ordinary, the mundane, and the simple. Most of life is unextraordinary. The vast majority of life is average. Accepting the ordinary frees you from the need to constantly prove yourself. It allows you to appreciate the simple things: friendship, creativity, helping others, reading a good book, and laughing with those you love. So this brings me to the crucial point. You are not special, and that's okay. Most of us are pretty average at most things we do. It is normal to be average. You may be exceptional at one thing, but you will be average or below average at most other things. We must stop comparing ourselves to the extremes of human experience that we see on social media and the news. We must embrace our own mediocrity. Accepting mediocrity doesn't mean giving up on improvement. It means understanding that the desire for improvement stems from recognizing that we're not great already. People who become great are obsessed with improving themselves, and this stems from the belief that they aren't great at all. It means letting go of the need to be special and embracing the simple, mundane truths of life. This brings me to another vital concept: the value of suffering. We have to stop avoiding pain and discomfort. Pain is an inextricable thread in the fabric of life. To try and avoid pain is to give too many fucks about pain. The avoidance of suffering is a form of suffering. The avoidance of struggle is a struggle. The denial of failure is a failure. Hiding what is shameful is a form of shame. Everything worthwhile is achieved by overcoming negative experiences. The pain you pursue in the gym will result in better health. Failures in business teach us what we need to be successful. Being open with insecurities will make you more confident. Honest confrontation builds trust. Suffering through fear and anxiety builds courage. Pain is a biological signal designed to nudge you towards beneficial change. Negative emotions are a call to action. When you feel them, you are supposed to do something. Positive emotions are rewards for taking the right action. When you choose your values, you are choosing a new form of pain. You must welcome this with open arms. Learn to sustain this pain that you have chosen. There is joy and meaning when you embrace the challenges, even the unpleasant ones. Remember, the years of struggle will be seen as the most beautiful ones in retrospect. This leads to a critical point. You are always choosing. We must take responsibility for everything in our lives, no matter what. The more we accept responsibility for our lives, the more power we will have. Accepting responsibility for your problems is the first step to solving them. There is a difference between fault and responsibility. Fault is past tense, responsibility is present tense. Fault comes from choices already made. Responsibility comes from the choices you are currently making. Someone else might be to blame for your unhappiness, but only you are responsible for it. You always get to choose how you see things, how you react to things, and how you value things. We need to realize that sometimes things happen that we don't choose. You may experience trauma or loss, pain that is unimaginable. You may not be at fault, but you are still responsible for how you react to it. Pain is inevitable for all of us, but you get to choose what it means for you. You can't control what happens to you, but you can control how you respond to it. This brings us to the idea that there is no how. People often get caught up in trying to figure out how to make changes in their lives. They want a step-by-step guide to success, but life doesn't work that way. You are already choosing what you give a fuck about every moment of every day, so change is as simple as choosing to give a fuck about something else. It's not easy, because you'll feel like a loser, a fraud, and a dumbass at first. You've spent so much of your life measuring yourself by old values that changing your priorities and metrics will make you feel as if you are failing. You will face rejections. Many relationships in your life will be built around values that you are now changing. You will fail, and it will be uncomfortable. But it is necessary. We need to be more skeptical of ourselves. We all tell ourselves stories, and we believe these stories even if they aren't true. We make up a lot of our memories. It is important to question your intentions. It is also necessary to kill yourself. I don't mean in the literal sense, of course. I mean kill your ego. The idea of who you are is just a story you tell yourself. When you let go of the stories you tell about yourself, you are free to act and to grow. When you admit that maybe you're not great at relationships, you are free to end your bad marriage. When you admit that maybe you are scared, you are free to be ambitious again. When you admit that maybe there's nothing special about your dreams, you are free to go after them. There's nothing unique about your problems. Everyone has problems. Do not assume that you are the exception. You must stop thinking of yourself as a rising star or a dismal failure. Measure yourself by more mundane identities. Redefine your metrics in simple and ordinary ways. Choose to be a student, partner, friend, and creator. The narrower the identity you choose for yourself, the more everything will threaten you. You must give up on the idea that you are special, that you are owed something by the world. When you stop seeking emotional highs, you'll experience withdrawal at first, but you'll be better for it. You must learn to be a little less certain of yourself. Ask yourself, what if I'm wrong? Often, we're so attached to our own opinions and values that we can't even conceive of being wrong. It's important to consider the implications of being wrong. You need to be open to the possibility that your values are flawed or biased. Look at your ignorance and concede that your ignorance is greater than you. Do not always trust your gut. Be aware of your biases. Be open to hearing different viewpoints. You must question your beliefs and assumptions. You should welcome doubt over being right. We have to understand that failure is the way forward. We learn through our mistakes. We can only be truly successful at something we are willing to fail at. If we're unwilling to fail, we are unwilling to succeed. A lot of fear of failure comes from shitty values. Tangible, external goals cause anxiety. They leave you feeling empty once they are achieved. Better values are process-oriented and are never completely finished. They are a problem that is always being re-engaged. Goals may be good for short-term things, but not as a guide for your life. You cannot keep growing and improving if you reach a goal that has nothing left to give. Happiness is generated through growth, not achievements. Sometimes, your values and metrics no longer serve you, and it is okay to let go. It is okay to hit bottom and have an existential crisis. Pain is a part of the process. Do not chase highs to cover up pain. If you do, you'll never be motivated to change. We must stop asking VCR questions. VCR questions are the questions that seem impossible to the people asking them, but seem easy to everyone else. The problem isn't the action itself, but the fear and discomfort you associate with it. For example, if you hate your job, it isn't hard to find a new one. The difficult part is feeling as though you are letting people down and facing an uncertain future. Do not let your emotions keep you from making the changes you need to make. You must learn to sustain the pain you have chosen. You must act despite it. Life is about not knowing what to do and doing it anyway. You must embrace the do something principle. Action is not just the result of motivation, it's also the cause of it. Action creates emotional reactions and inspiration. Taking action helps reorient your mindset. You must harness the reaction to your action as motivation. If you lack motivation, just do something, anything. Do not wait for inspiration. Take action, and it will follow. Start with a small step. Do not worry about the results. Focus on the action itself. Even failure will push you forward if you are following this principle. We also have to learn the importance of saying no. We must reject what does not align with our values. We cannot be everything to everyone. Freedom by itself means nothing. True meaning comes from a rejection of alternatives, a narrowing of freedom, and commitment to one thing. The avoidance of rejection gives us short-term pleasure, but it also makes us rudderless. The avoidance of rejection makes it difficult to find meaning. We must not be afraid of rejecting or being rejected. This is a crucial life skill. We must be honest and direct, and not avoid uncomfortable situations or difficult conversations. It is important to communicate without conditions or ulterior motives. Do not take responsibility for others' problems, and do not demand that others take responsibility for yours. People who give too many fucks believe they should feel great all the time, so they avoid rejecting anything because they fear someone else might feel bad. This results in a valueless and self-absorbed life. More is not always better. The more options you have, the less satisfied you are with whatever you choose. The paradox of choice is that it leads to anxiety and doubt. It is necessary to shut down options and focus on a few highly important things. Focus on depth rather than breadth. Go out there and discover what is worth investing in, but then focus and go deep. Finally, we must come to terms with the fact that, and then you die. This is the only guarantee in life, and we often avoid this fact. The best way to be comfortable with death is to understand that you are something bigger than yourself. You must choose values that stretch beyond yourself and that are tolerant of a chaotic world. You have to see yourself as part of something larger. Caring about something bigger is the root of all happiness. We must accept the inevitability of death. In the face of death, there is no reason to give in to fear, embarrassment, or shame. By avoiding what is uncomfortable, you are avoiding being alive. Do not wait for an external tragedy to force you to live your life. Do not let the fear of death keep you from living fully. People declare themselves experts, entrepreneurs, innovators, and coaches without experience, not because they are great, but because they think they need to be great. Our culture confuses attention with success. These things do not define greatness. You are already great. You are great because you continue to choose what to give a fuck about. The simple fact that you choose your own values makes you beautiful, successful, and loved. Even if you are sleeping in a gutter and starving. Go stand on a cliff sometime, and maybe you will realize it. We are all going to die, and that is a circus. That alone should make us love each other, but it doesn't. We are terrorized and flattened by life's trivialities. We are eaten up by nothing. Do not let your ego make you afraid of life. So, friends, as you go out into the world, I challenge you to live with less fear, less self-doubt, and less judgment. Embrace the struggle, choose your own values, prioritize what is truly important, and let go of the rest. Be less certain of yourself, embrace your mediocrity, and always remember that you are already great. Now, go live, go thrive, and most importantly, don't give a fuck about the things that don't matter, so you can give a fuck about the things that do.